It's raining again. Yes, good afternoon. My plan today was to do a sort of fitness fragrance review. However, it's raining again. Honestly, what happens in this UK climate, let's be honest, is it's never just raining a little bit or windy a little bit. It's always storm something. So what I'm going to do instead today is I've planned to do this video for a little while. We're going to look at master perfumers. So I'm sure you know all the most well-known fragrances in the world, but do you know the noses or the brains essentially behind these amazing creations, whether that's Dead Hermes, Dior Sauvage, all these sort of big names or phrases, there's a nose behind it. Someone's had to create that. And actually, tend to find these perfumers, they don't get a lot of recognition. The brands do, but the actual person behind it don't normally work for the company. They kind of get hired in by these brands. And yeah, they maybe don't get the recognition they deserve. So what I'm planning to do today, I'm going to sort of mention some of the most well-known master perfumers. See if you've heard of them. I'm sure you've heard of the fragrances they've helped create. So yeah, just a bit of a fact file, a little bit of their life, and yeah, how have they got into this? How have they become these master perfumers? What makes them a master perfumer? Did they have to go and study? Was it just pure coincidence? It's something that runs in the family? And yeah, I just thought we'd do a little video today to kind of look at the history of fragrances a bit more, and yeah, sort of work through some of those people who have made these amazing scents that most of us enjoy. ChatGPT has helped me a lot here, so I'm hoping they've got all their facts correct with these. But I want to start by looking back in time a little bit. And the first one I've got here apparently is a very well known, well, it's a very well known phrase, not apparently, this is definitely well known. Chanel number 5. Who was the master perfumer behind this? Well, it was a person called Ernest Beau, born in 1881 to 1961, so 80 years, French Russian nationality, and yeah, essentially was the pioneer of aldehydic perfumery, so those aldehyde type fragrances. Yeah, essentially Ernest Beau was the key person behind this. So let's sort of give you a little bit about the early life of Ernest Beau. Born in Moscow to a French family, so that's where the nationality comes from. His father worked for Rallet, or Rallet, I reckon it's pronounced, a perfumery serving the Russian imperial court. He served in the Russian army and was later stationed near the Arctic Circle, where the crisp air inspired his fascination with cool, clean scents. So again, the early sort of interest in fragrances came from just being outside, smelling that sort of crisp, cold air, and again, maybe gave that sort of aldehyde type vibe. So education and training. What education did Ernest Beau have? Did an apprenticeship as a chemist and perfumer at Raleigh. Obviously, father worked for that company, so again, had that sort of family history, helped him transition into that, and then he sort of self-taught himself the aldehyde notes. So yeah, very interesting how he did that. Now, career highlights: did leave Russia, then moved to France. In 1921, that's when he created Chanel number 5 for Coco Chanel, which again has kind of set a lot of modern perfumes, into this sort of fragrance scent profile. Aldehydes are very popular in a lot of fragrances. So again, that all came from that journey working as an apprentice, working as a chemist. So again, it wasn't just that sort of interest and being a mad sort of scientist in a basement somewhere. Had to do the proper training, and yeah, interest came through that family history. Again, the sort of philosophy or artistic style of fragrances, abstract, clean, and balanced. Lesser known facts: the aldehydes in Chanel number 5 were added in excess by mistake, apparently. Decorated with the French Legion of Honor, described perfumery as the chemistry of emotion. So yeah, there we go. That is Ernest Beau. Chanel number 5, iconic fragrance. Still, obviously, Chanel, everyone knows Chanel. And yeah, Ernest Beau was the one who really set that fragrance, well, and a lot of modern phrases into that sort of vibe of aldehyde. So yeah, there's the first one. On to Jacques Guerlain. You know Guerlain, I'm sure you do. I love a lot of their fragrances, Habit Rouge being one. So Jacques Guerlain was born in 1874 to 1963. French, obviously Guerlain, very well known. But yeah, obviously there's been a lot of fragrances that have come out, as I was just saying, Habit Rouge. But what ones was Jacques Guerlain known for? So Shalimar, which is one of my favourite fragrances, was by Jacques Guerlain. Now, let's talk a little bit about Guerlain's early life. Born into the Guerlain family, Jack grew up surrounded by essential oils and fine glass perfume bottles. So again, it's in the family, already sort of inundated with this as a child. You've got all these perfume bottles around the house. You can imagine it now. And I know as a kid, when I was trying my dad's fragrances, I just spray them all and didn't even know. But you do have an interest when you're younger. Scent, it's just another sort of thing. Smell is another sense that we have. And obviously that inspired Jack Guerlain. So education and training. Studied chemistry and music, combining science and art in approach to scent. Interesting. But again, it's not just having this family history. there has been some proper study that's gone into this. It's not just luck. Career highlights: created over 400 perfumes for the house. Shalimar, 1925, introduced the first Oriental style inspired by the Taj Mahal love story. I love this fragrance, and it does take you to that kind of oriental spicy type vibe of fragrance. Not a fact about, or a lesser known fact apparently about Guerlain, was he accidentally created Shalimar by adding vanilla to Jicky. So I just looked up Jicky. Jicky apparently was another Guerlain fragrance, so adding vanilla to it essentially created Shalimar, and obviously that almost outgrew Jicky. So very interesting how that happened. But I also thought it was interesting how he compared perfume to orchestral music. Again, maybe goes back from his studies, obviously liked music and liked fragrances as well, and obviously inspired some of those scents that he made in the future as well, and help maybe give that vibe. As I always say, senses are so important. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste can certainly influence each other, and it looks like in his case it definitely did. Right, we're going to go on to some more modern perfumers now, some that maybe make the fragrances you see today. I reckon you might have heard of this perfumer. He was probably one of the most well known in my opinion anyway, Alberto Morillas. Now, Alberto Morillas was born in Seville in 1950, raised in Switzerland, and briefly studied in Geneva. So that's kind of his early life. But what I find interesting with this is we've obviously just spoken about Guerlain, and his sort of career path to perfumery was slightly different to the ones we've just mentioned. He was inspired by a Vogue article about Guerlain. He joined Firmenich, I think that's how you pronounce it, and became one of the industry's most prolific perfumers. But what he then did is he actually founded his own company, and it was called Misencer or Misencer. I don't know how you pronounce it. I hope I pronounced that right. But what fragrances has Alberto Morillas done? So if you don't know the name, this is the sort of fragrances he's come up with. CK1, obviously Calvin Klein, very, very well known fragrances. And obviously there's been plenty of flankers since, like CK1 Shop. Yeah, and there's just so many from CK1. Acqua di Gio by Armani, very, very popular. Marc Jacobs, Daisy. So yeah, some really, really big fragrances there, all with his nose creating those fragrances. So a little bit of a fun fact about him. Well, essentially, what sort of fragrance profile is he known for? He's known for his clean, luminous style for creating some of the world's best-selling perfumes. Essentially, he's still a big deal now. You know, again, these companies are paying big, big money for these people to sort of make their fragrances. And what I think is really interesting, being a master perfumer, and again, in his case, is that obviously the smell of fragrances is subjective. We all have an opinion on fragrances, but these brands really relying on him, or any fragrance perfumer, sort of coming up with something that's going to be the most popular of those subjective opinions. And yeah, they'll look at the objective things, so how many sales are made. And yeah, your career is dependent on these companies first of all trusting you and you delivering something you may like but not many others do, and maybe vice versa. So yeah, that's Alberto Morillas, still around today. I think he still makes perfumes, to be honest with you, and yeah, certainly an iconic name and one to check out. Have a little look on Fragrantica if you're not sure what he's done. Gives you a long list of fragrances that he's made on there, and there's plenty more that I'm sure you're familiar with. Now, father-son sort of perfumers, master perfumers, let's say, it's quite rare. You don't get often two of them who are really famous, but in this case, we have got two. So this is Olivier Paul, I think that's how you pronounce it. He was born in 1974. He's the son of Jacques Paul, a long-time Chanel perfumer. So how did he get into it? Again, we've got that sort of family history connection coming in, but he actually studied art history before joining the IFF. Just had a little look. What is the IFF? It's the International Flavors and Fragrances Incorporation. I have no idea what that means, but it says it creates products across taste, texture, scent, nutrition, enzymes, cultures, soy protein, and probiotics categories. Essentially, you just have to join this register, I guess, to to make fragrances, something like that. But yeah, very confusing. I should have done more research on these things, shouldn't I, really? But he later became Chanel's in-house perfumer, succeeding his father. That's quite a big boost to fill, isn't it, if you're working for Chanel and then taking over from your father? But he's done very well for himself. He's done Bleu de Chanel fragrances, the variations. Number 5 Low, so again, another sort of flanker of those iconic fragrances. And yeah, what it says here, he blends art and scent, continues his family's Chanel legacy. So he also wants to continue that family tradition. He sees fragrances slightly different. So earlier we talked about how Guerlain sort of compares music and fragrances together, or scent together. He blends art and scent together. He sees it as an art, and they certainly are artists, these sort of perfumers, in my opinion. I would see it more as an art. And yeah, it's interesting again how he's used his studies to kind of develop into that fragrance world, and he's done pretty well and succeeding his family or his father. Be interested if the rest of the family continue from him. So the next perfumer, lady who did my favourite, my signature scent fragrance, Ted Hermes. So this lady is called Christine Nagel. She was born in 1959 in Sweden. She was fascinated by smells from childhood. So what was her sort of career path? How different was her career path to others? Well, she created iconic perfumes for several houses before becoming Hermes' director of olfactory creation in 2016. So again, she'd worked around different fragrance houses. Obviously, they really liked her, but then Hermes wanted her to be their fragrance perfumer, and obviously that's what she's ended up doing. So what fragrances had she made? What ones did she make before? Obviously, Ted Hermes. So she did Wood, Sage and Sea Salt by Joe Malone, Narciso Rodriguez for her, Miss Dior Cherie, and Hermes Twilly d'Hermes. So again, plenty of fragrances, and has touched into different brands. Honestly, these perfumers are really sought after by all these big brands. They're willing to spend big money to get them. You know, talking millions of pounds here. Again, what's her sort of artistic approach to fragrance? Well, she's known for a modern, elegant touch and balancing creativity with commercial appeal. What I like with, I certainly say this with Hermes scents, they're quite vegetal. They just feel like you've been out in nature. So this one here has got this really earthy orange smell, which is really nice, really, really nice. But again, a lot of the Hermes fragrances just smell very natural, very naturalistic, and they're still elegant, they're classy, and they're easy to pull off in my opinion. So they do have that modern touch. She's done really, really well with that, and that is just a brilliant scent. You can just wear it all year. So it's not a nice day today. It could be worn in the summer, but it just feels right whenever the occasion is. That lovely earthy pepperiness. That's a masterpiece. And however she's blended that, fair play to her. That's a master perfumer's nose that certainly got on that one. And when we think of master perfumers, they don't tend to be that young. They tend to be quite older sort of people. But actually, the next one, you'll certainly know this, and you'll know the fragrances from this person. Yeah, they were very young when they became a master perfumer and really hit the big time. So this is Maison, or Francis Kurkdjian. I hope I pronounced that right. But anyway, he was born in 1969 to Armenian parents. Now, he hasn't just made Baccarat Rouge 540, which of course is a very, very iconic fragrance, super expensive, but yeah, it's super popular. His actual first hit was at 26 years old, and it was Jean Paul Gaultier Le Male. So Le Male was also made by the same perfumer as Baccarat Rouge 540. Very interesting that. So yeah, essentially that one has become super, super popular. But he co-founded Maison Francis Kurkdjian in 2009. So it's actually quite a new brand, isn't it, really? And yeah, essentially that was his fragrance. He developed that. He grew his own business from that. And it all stemmed from Le Male. So Le Male essentially gave Francis Kurkdjian sort of notoriety to become his own boss essentially, and make this iconic Baccarat Rouge 540. And the next one is Natalie Lawson, and Natalie Lawson's actually done a lot of fragrances that I'm a big fan of. So Natalie Lawson was born in France, surrounded by the perfume industry, trained in perfumery and worked for major houses like, I really should have known how to pronounce this, Firmenich, which is interesting because that is the same one that Alberto Marias worked for. So you can see here, some of them have gone for a similar path. She created a wide range of designer and niche fragrances. So what ones has Natalie Lawson made? Encre Noir by Lalique, very well known fragrances, really, really popular. Gucci Flora, love the bottles of those, one of those floral type fragrances. Again, not cheap, but extremely popular. Bentley for Men. Bentley for Men are so, so popular. Bentley for Men Intense, all-time classic. It's got Natalie Lawson's nose on it, so super, super popular fragrances. Super good boozy ones as well. And Le Labo fragrances as well. One called, honestly, they make them sound so technical, but I don't know if it's Poivre 23. Please correct me in the comments if I'm saying these wrong. But essentially, what is she known for? Known for smooth, balanced compositions and versatility across styles. To go from Gucci Flora, so floral fragrances, to a heavy Bentley for Men Intense, to vetiver type fragrances like Encre Noir. She's obviously got a real good nose for, all seasons, and yeah, that versatility shines through with her fragrances. I actually need to correct myself. So earlier I said that Christine Nagel made the original Ted Hermes. She didn't. She actually made some of the flankers of Ted Hermes. The one who actually made Ted Hermes, the nose behind it, was Jean-Claude Elena, and he was born in 1947 into a family of perfumers. So again, family history. Now, it doesn't say it on here, but I've got a feeling Elena doesn't wear fragrances, which may sound really weird. Someone who's into, does this as a job, they love trying fragrances. Why do they not wear them? But sometimes you can imagine if you're doing it as a job, like playing football, the last thing you want to be doing is playing more football in your time off. And apparently, he just really likes that clean laundry smell. I believe that that is something that, it's not a fragrance in particular, but it's more of a smell. But let's sort of look into a bit more about Elena. So, career and path to perfumery. Trained at Givaudan, became Hermès's in-house perfumer from 2004 to 2016. Looks like Hermès, just from obviously Christine Nagel as well. Looks like they like having just one perfumer rather than getting different people in for different fragrances, like a Dior or Chanel. They might just call someone in for a set fragrance. Looks like Hermès like that continuity, and I think that's probably why I like so many of their fragrances. But he's also an author, so this is quite interesting. He's done a lot of books on perfume philosophy. So again, it goes into this sort of extra studies. Some of them like to sort of go into art, music, and use that as inspiration for their fragrances. Here we're talking philosophy. So notable fragrances: Un Jardin sur le Nil. That's definitely in the sort of bottles like Rhubarb Éclat, that sort of type fragrance. Again, very naturalistic. Ted Hermes. Eau Parfumée Eau de Vert, Bulgari. She's done a Bulgari fragrance. So sorry I'm butchering these names. I'd love to know how to pronounce them a little bit better, but maybe I should learn the language at some point. Maybe that would help me. But he's famous for minimalist style and poetic approach to scent creation. So again, sees fragrances as poetry rather than art and music. And yeah, I take it back. He's the one who's made this incredible fragrance, and I can't get enough of it. I'm never going to get sick of that fragrance. The last one we're going to do today is Annick Menardo, so another female master perfumer. She was born in Cannes, studied organic chemistry and perfumery at ISIPCA. So again, chemistry, extra studies. It looks like a lot of them go into chemistry, and yeah, that leads to their interest in perfumery. Joined Firmenich again, so this sort of, whatever this company is, it certainly helped develop a lot of these fragrances. I don't know if it's a fragrance house. I'll do a bit of research after this one. But became known for her dark, bold, and technical style. So what sort of fragrances did she do that is quite dark and bold? Well, Hypnotic Poison by Dior, Bulgari Black, and then Boss Bottled, so the creator of Hugo Boss Bottled, very, very well known. But she's recognised for smoky, gourmand, and distinctive accords that influence trends. So again, another trendsetter, not fresh and clean this time, dark, seductive type fragrances, which are certainly the ones that are popular in this autumn winter time. And if you get them right, they're harder to get right. Citrus fragrances are much harder to, or sorry, much easier to get right. But if you get one that's sort of a more sweet, more complex fragrance right, you're going to be up there. Citrus, I always feel there's a ceiling because they're not as complex, but these complex scents, yeah, certainly can set trends, and she's done a very good job of that. Right, let's find out about Firmenich, and let's see how we pronounce it.
Firmenich.
Firmenich. So Firmenich, I've done a bit of research. Let's have a little read of it. Firmenich was a Swiss company in the fragrance and flavour business. Very interesting how like sort of fragrance and flavour seem to be joined together. It's like this IFF that we were speaking about earlier. The company has created perfumes for over 125 years and produced a number of well-known flavours. Founded in 1895, it merged in May 2023 with the Dutch company DSM to form DSM Firmenich, and they are a global leader in health, nutrition, and bioscience, with the world's largest privately owned fragrance and taste company. So, yeah, sort of dipping their toes into different sort of life things, really, health things. So, yeah, interesting, but it has been the home of some of the most well-known perfumers today. I'd be interested to know that, are there any perfumers that I've missed out that you know of, that you buy multiple fragrances from, that you've enjoyed multiple fragrances from, that sort of genius, eau de genius, the nose behind your favourite scents? And I can always look at them a little bit more. Obviously, I was planning to do a bit of a fitness fragrance review today, so we will definitely do that at some point this week. But I'm hoping ChatGPT, I put that together at last minute, has given me some very accurate and true facts about these. But yeah, let me know if there's any that I don't know about, and I'd like to research them a little bit more. That was a very basic introduction to them as well. But yeah, again, very interesting. And the thing I found most interesting, or the thing I've learnt the most from that, is I was kind of expecting these people to have almost got into fragrances by chance. Actually, a lot of them didn't. Family history was very much behind a lot of them as well. And some have just followed, their father or whatever into the fragrance world. But they've all had to do some quite, rigorous studies, chemistry, all these things. They're not just these people who have sat in a basement and mixed ingredients together and suddenly they've come out with this thing that everyone likes. And how hard must it be? Fragrances are subjective. What I like, what you like will be different. But what they've got to do is they've got to try and get the most people to like it as they can. And then these companies that are essentially paying them the big bucks to make these fragrances will look at the objective data. How many sales? How many can they make? And their career depends on people's opinions, like mine and yours. So very, very interesting. I hope you've learned a little bit there. Hope that's given you a bit of an insight into those people who maybe don't get the recognition for these scents. The brands do, and obviously the celebrities that maybe attach their names to them get some recognition. It's time to maybe recognise the perfumers that have created these amazing scents that essentially have got us all into fragrances. But yeah, thank you very much for watching today. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope it wasn't too boring. I hope I sort of pronounce things as best as I can. But yeah, any sort of questions, please comment below. And yeah, plenty more fragrance videos to come. I'll catch you later.